and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, and welcome to this presentation of the introduction of the Galactic Consciousness. This is my recent and most complete course that I really wanted to develop for a while now, because it includes everything from this bigger galactic perspective of who we are, what's galactic consciousness, what's DNA, how does DNA work and function on this 12-folded nature of our multidimensional consciousness, and how do we actually apply and integrate that into our being, because the most important thing, as always, is to integrate that, is to become more and more infused with galactic consciousness. The first thing I would like to say is that we can imagine this great divine plan, this great divine design as the spinning wheel, the spinning vortex of ever-expanding consciousness, right? So there are aspects of Source that are always moving out and reaching out for their further potential, because self-realization means that we actually actualize that which is first thrusted into being, into motion in creation as divine potential. So the more galactic consciousness we acquire means that we are more self-realized in that potential. What I wanted to develop in this course is a practical understanding, a little bit of the theory behind the nature of the galaxy and the galactic consciousness, how it functions, what are these galactic rays of creation, and how do we fit into all of that. I wanted to present it in a very simple form, but also how do we then integrate that through many archetypes of creation. So as you know, there are many ancient tools such as tarot, astrology, divination, which all kind of work together, and they're all a part of this, how to attain more and more of this, what we call galactic consciousness. So I really wanted to further this knowledge, because so many beings are now getting ready to embrace more of their galactic self and joining the galactic family, as it's presenting itself as just bigger aspects of who we are, of ourselves. What is also important to understand here is that we're never actually fully ascended and then our journey ends and then we go back to Source. We're all aspects of Source, because through Source, thrusting out through the active creative principle and moving through the evolution of life itself, through the divine plan, and also what I call the code of life, which is the meaning and the divine signature of every single life form in creation. So everything is completely structured and held within creation in an intricate divine design. So once you understand creation principles in this bigger level, you start to simply resonate with them. You start to apply them in your life. You start to not just resonate with certain archetypes, but you start to embody them. And the nature of what I wanted to develop this course is to help you with this understanding of what does it mean to be on this ever-expanding journey of helping to expand the light of Source as it's acquiring more and more knowledge of itself. So everything is created from that potential, then it starts to realize into that potential, then it comes back. So everything evolves through the involution and evolution of Source, and we're all a part of that. So we have both the active and passive principle in creation, which is a pretty awesome thing. And the most basic principle within the unity and how it then creates polarization, so it can create life through these moving principles, which are the divine masculine force of creation and the divine feminine, which then create the triangulation, which then gives birth to all creation and different creative aspects of our being. So it's important to understand that, as I've said, this is an ever-expanding journey of soul expansion. And our soul being is just one part of this divine equation. Galactic consciousness includes various types of life and life forms. So the more attuned we become to our own galactic nature, we start to resonate with the galactic DNA of all life, which is ever expanding us into greater perspectives of the whole and functioning on levels of group consciousness and serving that, the collective. So each aspect of us, who we perceive ourselves to be these individuals, right? We're actually helping to expand the whole. The more we understand of ourselves, the more we understand our bigger nature, it's like this grand design perspective, the more we contribute to the whole in a conscious manner. So it's important to understand that there's always aspects of us that are these higher aspects that kind of help to gather up, to synthesize the lower aspects. So it's kind of like we're bringing them up into this whole. So we're taking them back home. So we're creating this, what I call the divine synthesis. And a divine synthesis is not a journey of what we could call of completion of a certain cycle. A divine synthesis is a complete re-evaluation and complete absolution that leads to absorption of our soul, which does not disappear. It simply creates a wholly new template of the ascended self. And this is what I call the divine synthesis. So in this course, you're going to learn all about that. There's going to be some theory and some practice, because the practical part will take us through the exploration of our own divine map and our blueprint, and how can we help ourselves through the knowledge of divinely encoded astrology. But it's not the kind of astrology, you know, that a lot of astrologers talk about. It's more like simply observing the codes of life, and how can we resonate with these archetypes so that we eventually embody them. So those of you who've taken the level 1 Galactic Signature course, you've probably became aware that everything in that course was revolving around the galactic core and our own alignment with the galactic center, where it is in our chart, and the basic principles of understanding our natal chart as reading our star map. And there's many of you who've taken that course. Now this course is more transpersonal. It's more the bigger picture. It's more like the grander us that we haven't perhaps even imagined possible. Because the first layers of our expansion as these individuals is the personal self. It's the identified self. It's sometimes what we call the ego self. And then when this part completes, there is a calling to the soul, and it reverberates in both ways. So it's like a soul calling these aspects back home, and you know, these aspects also call out because they know they're ready. It's always a mission within the wholeness. So because of this, I wanted to also create this transpersonal view, which is the bigger aspects of who we are and the DNA levels that we hold that perhaps are felt as more metaphysical in nature, but they really do reverberate through and move as they seed into our physical DNA, which then incorporates all of that. And that's what I call the divine integration, which leads to soul alchemy, which is such infusion with light that eventually it has to be transformation occurring. So through these archetypes that serve as our mirrors, as reflections, we are guided on a pathway of deeper self-knowledge. So perhaps the knowledge of, one example would be working with the fixed stars in our astrology, which is seeing what specific encodements we already came in with, what was already developed through these archetypal you know, embodiments. One thing that's really important is to see how the principle of source, how it creates, continuously repatterns itself throughout all life in existence. And it's always like this, it's like this motion, this movement, which we're helping to bring into this being because we're having interactions with ourselves and all life. Because our interactions are what causes the evolution of everything, of our life. So that's pretty amazing, isn't it? And the more we understand ourselves as galactic beings, it means that we're also going to have a greater impact on the whole. So one of the sidelines of creating this course was also to have this in mind, that there's beings who, with their expansion, they're going to have a greater impact on humanity and our beautiful planet Gaia and beyond. So if you want to learn more, all the information is shared down below. This is a beautiful course which serves almost like a synthesis of all my courses that I've created so far. It's like this stepping stone into our transpersonal bigger self and the nature of galactic consciousness. And you will find out more in the course. If you decide to take it, just listen to your soul, feel into it, and there will be more information about all of this in my upcoming books. There's going to be 3 volumes now because there's so much information, I cannot put it all in one book. So I'm working on all of that, bringing it through. But please understand that these things are very important. This is not about, anything spiritual even. This is creation level. This is core creation level understanding of how everything in life functions, how everything is divinely orchestrated and structured. And the more we understand this, the more we align with that perfection and that already perfected self, so that we stop creating these illusions, distortions, you know, becoming something we wish to become instead of being who we already truly are, is already perfect and whole unto itself. So the more of that we generate, the more we're going to self-realize. And as we step into the galactic consciousness of this self-realization, we help to self-realize the galaxy and this whole galactic principle and beyond. So I hope to see you in the course. My courses I always share the same way. They're private videos that I have to manually add you to, so all the information is found in the link down below. And as always, with beautiful greetings within our galactic family, and with so much love, wisdom, and power, and in this beautiful place here in the Alps, I will see you again very soon, and take care. Bye-bye.